Welcome back to Being Your Best Self. We've talked lots in various different discussions about the kind of busyness of a day and how we need to move up and down gears depending on what's happening and how we kind of do that and structure that. And it's going to be different for everybody, but I think it's important that we kind of get away from this idea that you just literally bookend one thing after another into your days, your weeks, and even further than that. So I'm really interested to hear from both of you about how you kind of transition through the things that you're doing in a day, and tips I think are always going to be useful for people in this space.
Yeah. I mean, I can just, I don't want to take Thor's thunder, but for me, actually, doing something very different is so important, because if I don't, I get things creep in, or they creep out, or I creep off, and then my calendar doesn't mean anything. It's just a pretty diagram because I'm somewhere else. And and if I was doing my best day, it would be about, I'd be picking my skipping rope out, I'd be going outside blasting on that, I'd be running at lunchtime, which I'm going to do today, and that would work really well for me. But then there's also places I slip into where I disappear off sometimes, and I'll go to the loo and I'll be sat there, and like sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour later, I'll be like still there because I've gone into an in-between world and I'm just doing something weird and different. It'd be great to hear what you think, Thor.
So I think for me, so in another video, we talked about skills and practice. So I think that feeds into this conversation about changing gear and how to compartmentalize and move from one gear to another. Because I find for me, there is a question of skill and practice. And I feel sometimes like, an athlete who does heptathlon, I kind of move from cycling to running to swimming. And when I feel fit and strong and I'm in training, I can do that more effortlessly than I can if I'm not feeling as fit for whatever reason. So I think there is that. And then there's also recognizing for me that actually different activities have like different speeds. So it's like if you're driving down the motorway at 5 miles an hour, you're actually a hazard. If you're bombing down a village at 100 miles an hour, you are actually a hazard. So it's not about speed being bad and everything needs to be slow. It's just it needs to be stage specific. So when I'm training, for example, my energy is quite up. Or when I'm writing, there's a lot of speed, there's a lot of creativity going on. When I'm in a consultation with somebody, my energy is very slow. Often I'm working with people who are dealing with a lot of pain or stress, so being really slow is important, because otherwise I'm a complete mismatch with the person that I'm working with. So being able to move up and down those gears and up and down those speeds is really important to my day and how I do my day well. So what I do is I have bumper spaces, just like cars have bumper spaces. I have bumper spaces in my diary. So I leave 15 minutes between things.
50 or 15?
15, 1-5.
1-5, yeah.
Between consultations, between meetings. I don't always manage it, but that is my default. That's my baseline mode. And during those 15 minutes, what I almost always do is I will go up and down the stairs at least once.
Okay.
It's great for the blood pressure because I do a sit all day. So to get my body limbering up and just get my blood pressure and my ticker working a bit. It also gives me a sense of giving my dog a little stroke. She hangs out downstairs, so we can have a little moment. I might have a comfort break. I might get something to drink. But it's just that kind of a bit of almost like a palate cleanser. When you're eating food and you have like a really good palate cleanser. Like
a sorbet. I love
exactly,
it.
in between things. Actually giving my brain that bit of a palate cleanser, and my energy, if I'm moving from one client or patient to another, then I've got something to really get back to me before I then reach out with and connect with somebody else.
So how do you make that happen practically, Thor?
So in my diary, I keep 15 minutes between, so I don't book things back to back. I book things with a 15-minute bumper space in the diary.
Right.
And then I use the time to go downstairs and do whatever.
No, that's great. No, that's really helpful. I love that practical element.
It's it's in the diary. I also have like a rhythm the way I go into my day. And that involves, what I wear. So I change clothes, although since we had a beautiful office in Cambridge before COVID. We were great. But obviously with COVID, we've all gone back home. And I've actually now got a lovely office because I've moved house to get a good office. So I'm working from home most of the time. But what I do is I change clothes to go into work and come out of work. Right. And I find that really helpful.
Yeah.
So that's one sort of hack. Another one is in terms of the kind of, I have a playlist that I play in the mornings to set myself up well. And then, you know, I have things I do at midday. I have things I do at the end of the day. And they just, it's almost like the bass line or the drummer. And actually I do play drums in a not a very cool band. I'm in a medieval band. We play, you know, very old music. So it's not cool at all, but it's a lot of fun. And as a drummer, I've learned about keeping the beat.
Mm-hmm.
And actually for me, those activities help me keep the beat during my day.
Yeah, I sort of see almost like you've got the scaffolding to hang your day off.
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
And
there'll be different things for different people. Like, you know, when I walk the dog in the mornings, I will sometimes see people taking their kids to the nursery or to the school. So that is something that you do every day. People watching this video will probably resonate with that. You know, the day starts by dropping the kids off, and the day sort of finishes about 3 or whatever it is when they pick them up. You know, that you've already got things in your day that give you a sense of a rhythm.
Yeah.
Actually using those spaces. So after you've dropped your kid off or on the way to school to collect them, well, how are you using that time? Are you using, you know, are you kind of paying attention to how the soles of your feet feel when they actually touch the pavement? Are you noticing the trees? Are you noticing the weather? Or are you rummaging around in your head for the next thing to fix? Or are you multitasking by, you know, phoning somebody at the same time and then forgetting what you talked about?
So you're talking about presence there as well, aren't you, Thor?
Yeah.
In terms of being present in what you're doing as opposed to where you want to get to.
Because also that kind of sense of coming down the gears is recognizing what gear am I in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of the villages in England, well, Wales and Scotland as well, really, when you drive into a village, it'll have a little sign that either tells you the speed that you're at,
Yeah.
or it says something like drive carefully through our village or something like that. Basically check your speed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us don't realize to check our speed through our day.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to bedtime and we're going to, you're screeching to a halt after a very fast day. And if we're knackered, we'll just crash into bed.
And there's also that
we sit in bed going like completely wired and can't sleep.
I was also just thinking about those signs that say speed limits aren't targets.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that kind of how do I come up and down the gears?
Yeah.
How do I move from fast to slow?
Yeah.
Is in itself a skill.
Yeah.
And actually getting a sense of, you know, experimenting, you know, slowing down, walking to school, or speeding up, or you know, cooking faster or slower, or talking faster or slower, eating faster or slower. Yeah, my ideal speed is around 60 miles an hour. I like to hang out there. I have fun there. My energy is quite high, but I know I can't sustain it and I need to slow down. Then actually when I'm working or when I'm working with myself, we total at like 2, 3, 4 miles an hour.
Yeah, I get that totally. Okay, Thor. So how did we finish this well?
Wow. Experiment.
Yeah.
It's more helpful to be curious than critical. Get curious about what gear are you hanging out in most of the time? What speed are you hanging out in?
Yeah.
And the other part is, are you in third gear but trying to drive at 70 miles an hour? So it's really effortful.
Yeah.
So we haven't got time to talk about it in this video, but there are lots of hacks to how do you actually physically change gears.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to drive at 70 but you're actually in third, it's so labor intensive. It's knackering.
Yeah.
So yeah, get curious basically about your speed and how much effort feels involved. And always, always, always be kind to yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thor. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
So we've got the last.